Chapter 6. The Street. If I had been astonished at catching a glimpse of so outlandish an individual as Queequeg circulating among the polite society of a civilized town, that astonishment soon departed upon taking my first daylight stroll through the streets of New Bedford. Thoroughfares, knives, docks, any considerable seaport will frequently offer to view the queerest-looking conscripts from foreign parts. Even in Broadway and Chestnut Street, American mariners will sometimes jostle the affrighted ladies. Regent Street is not unknown to Lascars and Malays at Bombay. In the Apollo Green live Yankees who have often scared the natives. But New Bedford beats all the Water Street and Wapping. These last-mentioned haunts you see only sailors, but in New Bedford actual cannibals stand chatting in street corners, usually outright, of whom yet carry on their bones unholy flesh. It makes a stranger stare. But besides the Fijians and Tonga Boers and Aromangans and Panagans and Brigans, and besides wild specimens of whaling craft which unheeded reel in the streets, you will see other sights still more curious, certainly more comical. There weekly arrives the score of Greens, Vermonters, and New Hampshire men, all aggressive to gain and glory in the fishery. They are mostly young, of store-up frames, and fellows who have felled forests and now seek to drop the axe and snatch the whale lance. Many are as green as the Green Mountains whence they came. And something strutting around the corner, he wears a beaver hat and a swallow-tailed coat, girdled with a sailor belt and a sheath knife. Here comes another with a southwester Bombay's cloak. No town-bred dandy will compare with the country-bred one. I mean a downright bumpkin dandy. Follow that in the dog days, will mow his 2 acres in buckskin gloves for fear of tanning his hands. Now when a country dandy like this takes into his head to make a distinguished reputation, joins the great whale fishery, you see the comical things he does when reaching the seaport. In beseeching his sea outfit, he orders bell buttons to his waistcoats and strap to his canvas trousers. Ah, poor hayseed, how bitterly will burst those straps the first howling gale. When thou art driven, straps, buttons, and all down the throat of the tempest. But think not of this famous town with only harpooners, cannibals, and bumpkins to show her visitors. Not at all. Still, New Bedford is a queer place. If it had not been for us whalemen, the tract of land this day would have been in as a howling condition at the coast of Labrador. As it is, parts of her back country is enough to frighten one, they look so bony. The town itself is perhaps the dearest place to live in all New England. It is a land of oil, true enough, but not like Canaan, a land also of corn and wine. The streets do not run with milk, nor in springtime do they pave them with fresh eggs. Yet, in spite of this, nowhere in all America will you find more patrician-like houses, parks, and gardens more opulent than in New Bedford. Whence came they? How planted upon this scraggly sofa of a country? Go and gaze upon the iron and Benmickle harpoons round yonder lofty mansion, and your question will be answered. Yes, all these brave houses and flowery gardens came from the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. One and all they were harpooned and dragged up from the bottom of the sea. In New Bedford, Fathers, they say, give whales for dowers to their daughters and portion off their nieces with a few porpoises apiece. In summertime the town is sweet to see, full of fine maples, long avenues of green and gold. And in August, high in the air, beautiful and bountiful horse chestnuts. Caliber-wise prefer the passer-by by their tapering upright cones of concreted blossom. So omniport is art, which may be in many districts of New Bedford has superindused the bright terraces of flowers upon the barren, effused rocks thrown aside at a certain stage. And the women of New Bedford, they bloom like their own red roses. But cheeks only bloom in summer, whereas the fine carnation of their cheeks is parental as sunlight in the seventh heavens. Elsewhere, match that bloom of theirs ye cannot, save in Salem, where they tell me the young girls breathe such musk, their sailor sweethearts smell them miles off shore, though they're drawing the night odors molecules instead of the Britannic sand.